Hi everyone, I'm Doug from DigiPen in Redmond. In this video, we'll discuss how to take our game even further as we continue to develop it. Scratch Invaders has come a long way since its humble beginning. What started out with just a simple spaceship moving around on the screen has now turned into a game with custom art, sound effects, music, 2 kinds of enemies, and 2 different hero attacks. It's quite an impressive feat. But the big question remains: is it a good game? We don't know yet. Is it fun? Is it too hard? Can players even figure out how to play it? These are all important things to know, but as it is right now, we can only hope we did a good job. Sure, we've played it quite a bit, but it's more important that we find out what other people think of it. After all, we aren't making this game for us. We're making it for our audience. The audience of a game is the people who will play it. Their opinion is what matters the most when you make a game. If they say your game isn't fun, then it isn't fun, no matter how good you think it is. In order to learn the truth about your game, you need to get other people to play it. This is done through what's known as playtesting. Playtesting is the scientific process of improving a game by watching others playing it, recording what they do while they play, and using your observations to guide your work. It's one of the most important parts of the game design process. Here's how it works. First, you come up with your goals. What do you want to find out about your game? Be specific. Do you want to see how long players can last without taking damage? Do you want to find out how many players understand how to defeat the boss of level 2? Are you just checking to see if players know which buttons they're supposed to press? These are all examples of playtesting goals. Next, you prepare your game for testing. In many cases, your game might not need any special preparation. But if your goal is to see how hard the game is when there aren't many enemies left and the hero only has 1 HP, then you can change those things about your game before testing begins. Then you find a tester, the person you'll watch play your game. This can really be anyone, and you might be fine just asking your friends and family, but you'll be better off if you can find someone who hasn't already tested your game. The next step is to run a testing session. That is, have your tester play it and watch them very carefully. Keep a notebook handy and write down everything they do and say while they play your game. Do they seem to have difficulty finding the exit to a cave? Do they frown and sigh when they encounter the boss? Do they seem to prefer one ability more than the others? All of this is important to remember, so take good notes. Resist the temptation to help your tester. Their struggles might seem frustrating during testing, but it's more valuable to your game if you don't give them any hints or help. When they're done playing, thank your tester for their time. They're doing you a favor by playtesting your game, so remember to be courteous. After the session, read your notes and analyze them. What can you learn from the experience? Maybe you need to add a platform here or remove an enemy there. Maybe this section of the game is fine, but that section needs to be cut completely. Change your game to fix its flaws and enhance its strengths, and then do it all again. So, what should your playtesting goals be? Well, above all, be on the lookout for 3 main things. Number 1, can the player understand what to do? That is, do they know how the controls work, but also, do they understand the game's rules, and do they know what their goals are? Number 2, is the game too hard? Is it too easy? There's really no reliable way to answer this without playtesting. Remember, nobody is better at playing your game than you are. Number 3, is the game fun? More specifically, which parts of the game are the most fun and which parts are the least fun. Try to add more of what works well, and don't be afraid to completely remove things that the testers dislike. When it comes to preparing your game for playtesting, it's often a good idea to add special features designed to make the testing process easier. With the press of a button, you can change anything in your game that you like. Is one of your goals to see if the players like how fast the hero moves? Make it so that you can press keys to change the hero's speed. You can do this sort of thing with movement speed, attack speed, HP, and so on. If your game has multiple levels, you can add keys to skip to any level you like. Features like these can save you a lot of time. Before you release your game to the world, you can remove them, or leave them in as secrets for players to discover. Let's add some playtesting features to Scratch Invaders. Load what you've already done in that project, or visit the link in the description below, and then click the See Inside button. We'll begin by adding controls to change the hero's movement speed. With the hero sprite selected, click the light yellow Events category. Add a When Key Pressed block to the code area, and select 1 from its key list. Then click the orange Variables category. Attach a Set block to the When Key Pressed block, and select Hero Speed from its list. The hero's current speed is 8. Let's make it so that we can change their speed to half that much and twice that much. In the Value field, type the number 4. Then right-click the When Key Pressed block and choose to duplicate it. Select the 2 key from the copy's key list, and in the Set block's Value field, type the number 8. Now right-click the When Key Pressed block and duplicate it again. Select the 3 key from the new copy's key list, and in the new Set block's Value field, type the number 16. Now click the green flag to try it out. Press the 1, 2, and 3 keys to see how the game feels with different movement speeds. While a tester is playing Scratch Invaders, you can ask them to press these keys and then observe how they play the game with different hero speeds. If one number seems too low and another seems too high, try halfway between them. You can carefully refine the game's numbers this way. Next, let's make it so that we can press keys to change the hero's HP. Right-click one of the When Key Pressed blocks that you recently added and choose to duplicate it. Set the new When Key Pressed block to the Q key and select HP from the new Set block's variable list. In its Value field, type the number 5. Then right-click the new When Key Pressed block and choose to duplicate it again. Select the W key in the new When Key Pressed block and type the number 10 in the Value field of the new Set block. Now, right-click the new When Key Pressed block and duplicate it again. Select the E key and in the Value field, type the number 20. Click the green flag and play the game, and try pressing the Q, W, and E keys to see how the game feels with different numbers of HP. Now let's add a button that adds 1 super bullet to the hero's supply. Right-click one of the When Key Pressed blocks and duplicate it, and select the Z key from the key list. Drag the Set block away from it and drop it on the block palette to delete it. In its place, attach a Change block from the block palette and select Super Bullets from its variable list. Click the green flag and try it out. Now you can press Z to give yourself a super bullet whenever you like. This can be useful for testing how the Super Shot power-up works. Everything seems to be in good shape for playtesting, but there's one thing you should remember to do before the game is complete. put the hero's starting sequence back in. Find the starting sequence function. Nearby, you should find a code stack containing a start sound block, a go-to block, and a glide block. Drag the broadcast block out of the body of the starting sequence function and attach it to the bottom of this code stack. Then add the code stack to the body of the starting sequence function. Click the green flag to try it out. The sequence works as we initially designed it, but there's a bit of a problem. The enemies begin attacking before the hero is ready for them. This is easy to fix. Click the red Stop button to stop the game, then select the enemy sprite in the sprite pane. In the code area, find the Start block. Here we can see that the Create Wave function is called when the green flag is clicked. Let's change it so that it isn't called until the starting sequence is complete. Click the light yellow Events category, add a When I Receive block to the code area, and select Hero Ready from its list. Then drag the Create Wave block away from the Initialize block and attach it to the bottom of the new When I Receive block. This takes care of the basic enemy. Now select the Tough enemy sprite from the sprite pane. We'll do the same thing here. Add a When I Receive block to the code area and select Hero Ready from its list. Then drag the Create Wave block away from the Initialize block and attach it to the bottom of the new When I Receive block. Now click the green flag. The starting sequence is back, and now the game has some useful playtesting features in it. Don't hesitate to add more and more of them. Let's recap what we've learned in this video. First, we reflected on who the audience of Scratch Invaders is. It's not us, it's other people. Then, we learned what playtesting is, the process of improving a game by watching others playing it, recording what they do while they play, and using your observations to guide your work. We learned the steps of playtesting, coming up with testing goals, preparing the game for testing, finding a tester, running a testing session, and reading and analyzing your notes to improve the game. Then we recognized 3 things to look out for when testing a game. Can the player understand what to do? How is the game's difficulty? Which parts of the game are good and which are not? Finally, we added some playtesting features to Scratch Invaders. Throughout these videos, we've learned a lot about the elements of fun. We learned how to create variables, use random numbers, and program loops and complex conditions. We learned how to control the difficulty of a game, create power-ups to add variety, and run a playtesting session. We learned how to use sound effects to provide feedback, add music to a game, and modify existing sounds to get more use out of them. We learned how to use color to enhance a character, create custom sprites and backdrops, and create a strong theme for a game. And we learned how to work with numbers in Scratch, use Cartesian coordinates to keep track of sprite positions, and give an object a velocity to move it around. So what's next? It's up to you. Will you continue to work on Scratch Invaders? Now that you know about playtesting, there's no end to how much you can do to improve it. Perhaps you'll make a sequel for it instead. Scratch Invaders 2, Lobstar's Revenge, has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Or maybe you'd prefer to blaze your own trails and set out in an entirely new direction with a game all your own. Whatever you choose to do in game development, your games will always be better if you continue to practice the elements of fun.